track, and they would like nothing better than to go back to where it is they live, having earned a victory here at New Jersey Motorsports Park. There goes Beth Miller with the red flag. She will walk away and climb over the wall. Then the lights will come on, as they have now. You'll hear the revs come up. All those engines are roaring, and away we go. Good, fair start from the front row. Gage McAllister already driving up from row number 2 towards turn 1. He's in the all-black leathers with red trim. It's difficult to pick these riders out, and after an entire season of watching them, I'm finally getting to the point where I can recognize at least a few of them. And let's see who got the whole shot as they head up out of turn 3 and around into the short chute. Here we go, into the hard right-hander, a long string of riders in the KTM RC Cup, a spec class where the machines are identical, the tires are the same, the fuel that's used is the same, and everything is all a level playing field. It's up to the skill and talent of the riders to bring this one home. Well, we've got a runaway leader already here with about a half a second, maybe a little bit more of a lead. Who is that out in front right now? Justin McWilliams, perhaps? We're going to have to take a little bit closer look as we see who our lead rider might be. It's so difficult to pick them out from the distance that we're looking at on our monitors, and those of you at home are as well. And as they come around, though, you can... We got one bike down in turn number 5 here in the early going. No identification. That's Anthony Mazziato running in second position. He's taken over the task of trying to run down the leader, a leader who has really opened a pretty massive advantage. This is unusual for somebody to get that far out in front this early in the race, and what a great job is being done by that lead rider. So Maz now and the rest of his pals are going to be trying to chase down the leader, and they just have to, what they don't need to do, we haven't seen any signaling going on yet, and they have to just stay in line, and whoever's fast needs to be the one out there trying to chase down the leader. As they come across the start-finish line, that leader is Anthony Mazziato III. He's the one that's gotten out in front. Brandon Posh leading the chase with Ashton Yates and Jody Berry. Xavier Zayat is right there as well with Gage McAllister in 6th. So your leader is Anthony Mazziato III, and he has really pulled the trigger on a great start. Got into turn number 1, and with the lead, he is off and running. It was Benjamin Smith down in turn number 5, so we've lost one of our mini GP graduates from here at New Jersey Motorsports Park. Benjamin Smith down in turn number 5. But Anthony Mazziato carrying the colors right now of the local riders and the local favorites. And here we go. Lap number 1 is complete. We are 12 laps to go right now with Anthony Mazziato out front. He had a second and a half lead at the start-finish line. It appears they've cut into that a little bit. We have another bike down. That is Ruben Casares on the number 922 down. Ryder is up and okay, but we've lost a couple of men out of this field already. Anthony Mazziato, Maz, is amazing out in front. Look at the lead he's got already in this race. We'll see what kind of an advantage he has when he comes across the start-finish line next time. They do seem to be cutting into it a little bit, but Anthony Mazziato out in front, really doing a great job of putting this race, putting the racers behind him. It's scattering the field right now. Yesterday we had a dozen riders nose to tail. Now there are gaps opening up in the field under the pressure being applied up front by Anthony Mazziato. He comes out from under the Napa Bridge and onto the start-finish line straight away. And as he does, a pass for second position. Gage McAllister moves up to second with Jody Berry. Those are the two riders right behind the leader. The X-Man, Xavier Zayat, in 4th spot, just a little bit further back. He's got Hayden Schultz and Ashton Yates and Brandon Posh for company. Also, Braden Ort and Alejandro Gutierrez Mejia, Altmaier, Mick Doolan, and Justin McWilliams. Boy, everybody's there. There actually are no gaps bigger than a couple of tenths of a second, all the way back to Isaiah Davis in 14th position. The top 13 riders, you could call that a group. They're definitely closing the ground as Gage McAllister, the reigning champion, the newly crowned champion in the class, took up the chase, and he has just about run down Anthony Mazziato now. They had an 8/10 of a second. He had an 8/10 of a second lead at the start-finish line, but now it's a lead group of 3. It is McAllister and Jody Berry. Jody Berry needs to gain points on McWilliams and Hayden Schultz. They are part of that group behind him. But Jody Berry right now needs to make up 10 points on Hayden Schultz to secure himself a spot on the U.S. team for the World Cup at Silverstone. Anthony Mazziato, Gage McAllister, and Jody Berry in that order right now as they are stretching out a little bit of an advantage. But the chase from the X-Man, Xavier Zayat, coming up from behind him, he had about a 2-second gap to close. It looks as though he's cut about half of that. And here we go, a challenge for the lead. Up the front straightaway. That's how Gage McAllister won yesterday's race. A draft move out of the final turn. He takes the lead out of the final turn just exactly the same way. Jonathan Green, we've got a runaway leader for the first couple of laps, but he's got company now. And this is going to be exciting with 10 laps to go. We got a race.
Yeah, we had no doubt about Anthony Mazziato's motivation after yesterday. He wants to go out here in New Jersey at home with all the fans here, with the sun shining on a high. And yeah, but unfortunately, so does everybody else. Last race of the year. And you just said it, the World Cup, it's starting to gain momentum in everybody's minds now. What an opportunity this is to go to Silverstone for these youngsters, and they're all fighting desperately to be in that top 5.
It looks as though Gage McAllister and Anthony Mazziato, they had opened just a little bit of a gap on Jody Berry, but he's recovered and jumped right in there behind him. Gage McAllister puts his head down, and he would like to not only have clinched the championship with a win, but to put a little bit of icing on that cake and win the final race of the year as well, with the number 1 plate, figuratively speaking, attached to its motorcycle.
Yeah, it's the old story in sport. You know, somebody with confidence, just you heard him on the grid there. He's, brimming with it, and absolutely, it makes you fuck. I'm sure there's a second to be added for anybody who is just feeling in the zone and feeling right, and that's exactly where Gage is right now.
Just under a 2-second advantage the lead 3 riders have over that thundering pack behind them. There is a whole group of riders, and those guys need to just settle down, figure out who the fast one is, let him chase down the leaders, and just get in line. Don't be racing too hard. You've got a second group of 4 riders that includes Hayden Schultz, the X-Man, Xavier Zayat. Our 3 leaders are across the line. Berry, Mazziato, and McAllister in that order. Then it is Schultz, Zayat, Brendan Posh, and Ashton Yates who make up the chasing group of 4. There they are right there in turn 1.
Braden Ort also in the top 8. Remember, he was the guy with the injury. So hats off to him for even being out there today, because he could have got up this morning and gone, forget this, especially with a swollen hand like he's got. But he's out there. And hats off also to Ashton Yates, who's come good right at the end of the season here and starting to show some real form, the 16-year-old.
Yeah, Braden Ort, who's back in 8th position, he's got about a 3-second gap to try to make up, but he's already clinched a spot in that top 5. He is riding very bravely with an injured throttle and braking hand, so Braden Ort doing a good job. But this group of 4 that includes Hayden Schultz, who is sitting on the bubble at 77 points. He has to not give up points, especially to Jody Berry, who is ahead of him on the racetrack. So for Hayden Schultz, there's some urgency to his game right now. He had to replace the engine because his transmission had gone bad on him, causing him to DNF and score no points. So he's probably the most nervous guy out there on the racetrack right now. His spot in the U.S. team is the one up for grabs.
Yeah, Brandon Altmaier, his team helped put that engine together last night, and we're kind of feeling like, are we helping the guy we're going to try to beat? Because Brandon is also in that hunt as well, currently in 8th position overall. He too could still make the top 5.
Right. Well, for Brandon Altmaier and for Justin McWilliams, they are back there in that 3rd group, and they are, in fact, in a position to lose points to the riders ahead of them right now. So it could be that McWilliams and Altmaier, they're going to have to put their heads down to see if they can't make something happen here, because their chances of being on the U.S. team are starting to fade away. Jody Berry, Gage McAllister, and Anthony Mazziato. For Jody Berry, he's got the bit between his teeth. He has to gain 10 points on Hayden Schultz. Hayden Schultz is in the 2nd group just behind him, and the difference in points, well, let's just say if Jody Berry's able to win the race, it would take a 4th place finish for Hayden Schultz in order to have accomplished what he needs to do. So out front, it's Gage McAllister. KG Gage in the black and red leathers on the number 25 is the man up front. It is Anthony Mazziato III with the green helmet back in 3rd position. And Jody Berry in the middle there is the guy that stands to gain the most here, the way the situation is right now. We're at 8 laps to go.
Yeah, this is far from over, though, is it? There's so much racing still to come from this. And I think they're all just testing each other out. You were saying, don't race, boys. It's hard to put that mentality in this because these bikes are so equal that really you just don't have any chance but to go full out all the time. There's no sort of, there's no real, dream scenario to it. You've just got to go hell-bent for leather every lap.
Jody Berry taking over the lead there, making an inside move on Gage McAllister. So here we go. Jody Berry is the man leading up front. We had him up here in the booth talking to him. He really came out came out with guns blazing in the early part of the season. He scored podiums in both of the first two races. He was sixth in the first race at Barber. Then things began to go a little bit sideways for him as he scored no points in the second race at Barber. He finished 10th, 11th, and 6th. No points in the yesterday's race here in New Jersey. So Jody Berry is kind of an all-or-nothing effort right now for the man on the number 717 machine in that lead group. Here's your second group of four, including Brandon Posh, Hayden Schultz, the X-Man, Xavier Zayat, and Ashton Yates out of Milledgeville, Georgia.
Yeah, this is a great battle between these four as well. And I wonder if they can use each other to try and push themselves forward. You've seen them in the past. Just you might see them make a signal almost, which is, get behind me. Let's use each other to effectively take this train. If you've ever watched cycle racing, and I know you're an exponent of that. You're a champion in Philadelphia.
Well, I was a Pennsylvania champion.
Pennsylvania.
Racing, boy, the draft is really important, and you can feel it because it's your legs, not just twisting the throttle, that makes that happen. I think the fact that a lot of these guys train on bicycles gives them a little bit of extra feel on just exactly how that works. A 3-second deficit now to that second group. That's going to be tough to make up, considering they're all doing just about the same lap times. You got a 135.9 by McAllister, the fastest lap of the fast time on the previous lap. 36.0, 36.0, 36.7, 36.5, 36.6, 36.6. So the lap times among the top 7 are all pretty much the same. The problem is that second group of 4 has a 3-second deficit to try to make up, and only 7 laps to do it.
You know, I reckon that second group is actually doing some catching. They come across the line now. We'll check the times, Brian, because here they come now. Let's see how closely they're getting.
The gap is now still 3. In fact, it went up a little bit. The leaders are actually gaining on the second group by just a couple of tenths. It's not super duper dramatic, but the 4 behind are not closing on the 3 leaders. Anthony Mazziato III, again, having already clinched a position on the U.S. team, he's got nothing to lose up front. Gage McAllister, likewise. It's Jody Berry that's the man in the hot seat right now on the number 717. He's got to make 10 points on Hayden Schultz, and right now he's getting the job done. That's Mazziato in the lead. Jody Berry bringing up the rear of that group. And Gage McAllister, the champion, right there in the middle in the black and red leathers. McAllister taking a quick look over his shoulder. Jody Berry takes a cue from the champ, does the same thing. They look back and they see almost 4 seconds behind them, so they've still got to keep their heads down. They can't settle to the business of racing amongst themselves just yet. They've got to keep the pace up.
6 laps to go. It was the right time to look around, though, because I never advise looking around for a rider when you're concentrating on trying to go forward, but that was the time to do it, on the straight, on the back straight. Have a quick look, see where you are, understand the situation, and that's perfect. And he knows exactly where he is now, Gage. And like you say, he can gauge when to go. 2 of the principals in yesterday's race, Gage McAllister and Anthony Mazziato, are up front right now. Mazziato losing the race to McAllister on a draft pass on the final straightaway. And we can see a lot of determination by the young man who is leading right now. He wants to try to get away from these guys. He doesn't want to get eaten up at the finish line like he did yesterday. He wants to go out with a win here in the final race of the season. There goes McAllister inside going into turn number 1. The lead changes quite often. Here comes the second group, and they're up to 4.6 seconds now. So things are definitely going backwards for the 4 riders behind our leaders right now. The gap is increasing. They're not closing it. They're, in fact, losing ground. I'm trying to do some maths and work out who that top 5 is. It's really hard to work out in the middle of the fray here, to speak. We'll find out, though. And remember, top 5 going to represent the USA in England in a month's time. Well, again, 3 spots have been clinched by McAllister, Orton, Mazziato. McWilliams, he is coming up right now. He is the one that's really going to have it. He is giving up points in a big way. He is in the 3rd group, back there in 10th position right now. So Justin McWilliams, his position in all of this is certainly at stake. Hayden Schultz is in the 2nd group, so he stands a better chance of holding on to a top 5 position right now than does McWilliams. Because Jody Berry in the lead group had to make up 10 points on Schultz or 12 points on McWilliams, and the way the points play out, he's gotten the first part of that job done. Yeah, and Josh Chern, is also a long way down. He's down in 16th place. He's not going to be a factor in this. And a guy who had such a bright start, remember, pole position for the first race, but didn't get that start. And he's been there, but thereabouts. But a shame, Josh not going to make it today. Well, Josh Cernay, indeed, from Northern California, doesn't look like he's going to be a factor in this one, as you said.
But here we're looking a little bit further back in the field. A couple of riders that includes Brayton Norton and Brandon Altmaier. Those two are, Brayton Norton is already part of the U.S. team. Altmaier had high hopes of joining him in this in his endeavor, but at this point, they're just too far back. They're 10 seconds behind the leaders, and that's not going to happen with 4 laps to go. But there they are. Brayton Norton with the white and blue helmet, the young Canadian rider who won the last 2 races in a row prior to coming here to New Jersey to secure himself a position. He had a big crash in Friday practice and Friday qualifying, and he has a very badly injured right hand. He's not sure if it's broken or not. He isn't brave enough to go and find out. He just knows he's going to be out there racing, and that's exactly what he's doing. Again, he has already secured a spot, so he doesn't really have to worry too much, but he does have to continue racing because, you know, you gotta get out there and show him what you can do. Brayton Norton, he's such a quiet and sort of personable young man, but boy, he has some grit and determination in the eye of the tiger. Oop, he just put his hand up a little bit. We're not sure what that was all about. He just raised his left hand momentarily there. Maybe he went for a tear-off or something. I just saw his left hand go up towards his face. That was probably a
red flag.
Yep, red flag. He may have seen something that we didn't, but we've got a red flag situation, and oh my, does that change the complexion of things now, depending on the race direction and what they decide to do. Race direction is now determined that the race is complete. They have the choice of being able to determine, and it was coming up on 3 laps to go. The majority of the distance had been completed, so they will go back a lap, and while we are denied a full distance complete race, in any case, the decision has been made that this race is now complete. They will not restart it, and the question remains now, who was the leader on the last lap in which everyone finished? So timing and scoring will revert a lap, and they will show us the order of finish as it was the last time they crossed the line at the completion of lap number 8.